Hey, what's up, guys? My name's Sevrin Brock. I've got something pretty unique I want to talk about today. JBC Cajones makes these. You're probably wondering what the heck this thing is. I'll get to that in a minute. First, I want to talk about JBC's Twin Tappa. I first fell in love with this drum for two reasons, mainly. The first one being this thing has more bass in it than any other cajon I've ever played. It's incredible low-end tone, and it's one of those things you got to hear it for yourself. I'll do a demonstration video after this. I'll mic everything up, and you can kind of get an idea of what these sound like. But the second reason, the bass on this does not bleed over onto the snare. I don't know how he does it. Every cajon I've ever played on, you hit that low note, and the snares rattle like every time. And I could just be nature of the beast, but this is kind of proof that it doesn't have to be that way. And so I personally wanted that distinction mainly for recording purposes. Live isn't as big of a deal, but for recording purposes, you don't really want that bleed over in my experience. I'd rather have that boomy kick and then the snare. I don't want a boomy kick with like rattly snares over it and then a snare. I think it kind of takes away from that actual pop of the snare when it's just kind of, kind of sloppy sounding, I guess. So those are the two main reasons why I fell in love with just this cajon. I actually switched brands because of this right here. Also, this is called the Twin Tappa because on this side, and I'll turn it in a minute, but this is sloped on this side, and you've got your low end down here, and then you've got your snares up high, like a normal cajon, basically. Then if you want this side, you can kind of see the difference in the angle, but you can play on this side, and you still have the low end, but you don't have snares. So if you don't want snares, you don't have to have snares. One cool, unique thing about this is I was talking about the bleed over before. If you want, you can play like midway in between here, in between the snare and the kick, and you've kind of got that medium, I guess it'd be like, your kick and then like maybe a tom or something, and then like your snare. So you kind of have that medium ground. My last cajon that I had, it was kind of either one or the other. And so it's kind of neat. There's tons of like surface space on this to mess around. Obviously, closer to the edge, the tighter it is, looser and more bassy towards the middle you get. One benefit I see and have experienced having a head on both sides that are playable is just like a normal drum. Okay, you've got your batter head, and then you've got your resonant on the bottom. And hypothetically, if this was just a solid piece of wood back here, like around the outsides of this, it would sound good, but I don't think that it would have the bass it does because it can't resonate like a normal drum can. So if you think about if you were to loosen that bottom head on a normal drum head, or on a normal drum, and then you tighten to the top one, you're going to hit it, and it's not going to sound good, first of all, but it's also going to be pretty dead on the bottom. There's not going to be really any resonance at all. And so if you think about that in terms of this, these are heads, just the same. And if you were to tension that top and bottom head on a normal drum equally, it's going to resonate to the maximum it possibly can. And so you put that in this sort of situation, it's a cajon, it's a wood box that you beat on like a drum, but it actually resonates, and you'll hear that in that low end like crazy. I mean, it's incredible. The first time I ever heard a kit like this was on somebody's cell phone, and it was a guy playing it on stage, and I wasn't actually watching the video, I was just listening to it, and I thought that it was an actual drum kit, like no joke. Then I saw the video, and I was just like, whoa, blew my mind because I wasn't expecting that at all. Obviously, you can tone it down if you want to, but if you're up on stage and you're playing and like you want to, you can use sticks like these. I wouldn't use like wooden sticks for obvious reasons, but you might be able to get away with wooden hot rods, maybe, if the dowels are small enough. But these are just plastic or nylon dowels. And you can play with these on them, or you can use your hands or whatever. It just depends on what you're doing. Obviously, these would be more aggressive. Hands might be a little bit more subtle. But these top heads on these are also thicker than I'm pretty sure every other brand, at least the ones that I know of, are thicker on the top, so you can hit them harder if you want to, but it also doesn't take away from the sound at all. I think it gives it kind of a unique JBC sound. And so that's kind of a neat, intriguing aspect of it, is it's not like something I've ever played before. So basically, moving on from this is, so this was the Twin Tappa. This is JBC's Pro kit. And this thing is crazy, okay? It looks crazy. It's like, some people ask, like, they come in here and they're like, dude, like, that thing's nuts. Like, what side do you play from? And on and on and on. Well, it's set up this way because basically what you'd be doing is you'd be sitting on this. So picture this as your bass drum. And speaking of which, I don't know how far along Jay is with it, but there's a prototype pedal that he's made that I actually got to use at NAMM this last year. And he might be close to being done with it. I'm not sure. But basically what it is, and you've got companies that make cable pedals for Cajons too, where you're playing it forwards like a normal kick drum, but the beater's going backwards. So this is the exact same thing as that, but there's no cables. It's a whole setup. All it does, it literally slides under. You could do this and slide it underneath, set the Cajon down, and then you've got your kick pedal here that does the exact same thing. I was pretty impressed with it. The response time is just like any other pedal, and it's made to fit these, so it's like an exact fit up. You buy it, stick it underneath, good to go. So basically, back to this, what you're doing, this is your kick drum, you're sitting on it. So you got your kick drum here, and then you're actually straddling this side of it, just like this, just kind of like a normal kit. You've got what I call your cross stick, which is right here. You can also use it as like a slap block or something, just kind of a higher, quick, just like a pow, pow, pow noise. This is your snare. This is your high tom, this is your low tom. These are also extremely bassy, like I barely am touching that. And again, I'll do a demonstration, get this thing mic'd up so you can really hear the tones. But when you're sitting at this, it's basically, I mean, it's kind of like a normal kit. It's a little bit smaller, it's different because you have wood heads on it and whatnot. But you can stick a hi-hat here, you can stick, 2 cymbals here if you want to, and this whole setup as a whole is like crazy. You can do so many things with it. You don't have to have cymbals. You can just use this. Like, you could add these things into a track that might already have a drum kit in it or something, and you could put this into it, and it's not going to be such a crazy change, It's impressive. It really is. It comes apart in 3 pieces. You got 2 knobs here. That comes apart. This comes apart, and then that comes off separate. So 3 pieces with the exception of the legs. He also builds the legs. They're angle aluminum. I was going to say angle iron, but they're angle aluminum. If you want to stand up and play, he also makes taller ones so you can stand up here and play up there, which is pretty cool because you don't always want to sit down. It depends on what you're doing. So on the side, you've got 2 knobs on each side. The top one kind of holds everything together. The bottom one does too, but it's more of an adjustment, and I'll bring the camera over and show you, but it's more of an adjustment. And basically, it's got a sliding mechanism, and it allows you, if you're not a flat player, you don't like playing flat, you loosen those up, and it's got a crazy tilt on it. Like, this is, I don't know what degree that is, but it's a lot. So if you'd rather play at an angle, if it's up higher or whatever, that's your option. And that's a really cool thing. So I'll give you kind of a walk around with the camera here, and I had a few custom things done to mine. Obviously you don't have to. It was just something that I wanted to do because also as it's sitting in the studio here, when I'm not playing it, it's also kind of a showpiece and something to talk about because it is different. There's absolutely nothing on the market at all like those. So it's new, it's innovative, progressive, whatever you want to call it, and it's kind of exciting. I'm excited for him. So, excuse me. My wife actually helped me pick out the color scheme on this thing. It kind of matches the rest of the studio, which was kind of neat. But so I had my signature actually put in the side of it. It's actually engraved. He's got a CNC, some sort of router, I believe, and so that's my actual signature engraved in there. And I had it put on the other one too, just because they're they pair together. They're the kind of, you can use them separately, but they're paired together. And then that's that sliding mechanism I was talking about. So the whole thing can tilt if you want it to, which is an incredible feature because, even on a normal kit, sometimes people don't like playing flat, and that's cool. I personally am a little bit more of a flat player. I've gone both ways, but I've kind of stuck with like the flatter side of it. So you've got those knobs which take apart your cross stick, and you don't have to have that if you don't want to. It's kind of an addition, but you know, you might as well. It's one of those things. Had the signature added there as well, and then this is the other side. So it's an incredible instrument. It really is. And of course, you can see lights shining off of this thing. The top is kind of like a lighter stain. In fact, it might have been actual white, but you can see the grains kind of coming through on there, which is also kind of a cool, neat thing. It's not exactly painted, and you still kind of get that natural look to it. So just the fact that you have this distinct separation between the bass and the snare. You don't have bleed over. That bass note's huge, and you don't have to make it that big, obviously, but the bass note's huge. Sounds amazing. The tone's amazing. And like I said, I'll do a demonstration video using this whole thing, and kind of that way you can really get a good hear the good sounds that come from this thing. Hit up JBC, man. Hit up my website, sevrinbrock.com. Leave me a message if you have any questions about this. You know, hit the link below or comment or whatever. Just like let me know if you have any questions. I love using this, and it's definitely something. You know, I could see how somebody could be a little unsure about purchasing something like this because it's like weird. It's never been done. It's not on the market. You know what I mean? Like, it's definitely a new setup. It's a new product, and dude, you sit down at this thing and you're gonna see what I'm talking about. It's just cool. It's like a super cool thing to have and to play around with, and like you can just use it for so many things. Even if you've got in a recording, even if you've got a full-on drum kit in there already, there's always places in some songs that something like this can sound cool in. And to be honest with you, when I first heard this setup, this whole thing, it was a setup, and it was on a cell phone. It was on a video, and I hadn't watched the video yet, but I could hear the sound, and it was at a live show. And I honestly thought the guy was playing a real drum kit. It sounded like so much like a real drum kit on stage that it just blew my mind. And then, you know, I saw what it was, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And then that year at NAMM, I got to play on one there, and I was like, man, dude, this is awesome. This is like when a drummer sits down at this dude, it's just like, it's kind of a game changer, you know? And from then on out, I just really wanted one, and finally got set up with one, and Jay was awesome to work with. But dude, you check him out. Let me know what you think. Let him know what you think. Yeah, let me know. Thanks.